Update. Am I the a-hole for exposing my parents when they forgot about me on their wedding? Original post. I know this seems like a weird situation, but I just feel so angry and depressed that I feel the need to vent even if no one is listening. So I, 17 female, was recently forgotten about on the day of my parents' wedding. My parents have been together for about 25 years, but they never actually got married. That's why when my dad, 50 male, proposed to my mother, 49 female on their anniversary, which they have always celebrated on the date my mother found out she was pregnant with my eldest sister even though they were already together before. Everyone, including me, was elated and celebrated the occasion with great joy. This happened all the way back in February. They immediately jumped into wedding planning, deciding very early on a small event in Hawaii with just the closest family and friends for an intimate ceremony. Almost immediately, my mother asked my sister, 25 female, to be her maid of honor, and my dad asked my brother, 22 male, to be his groomsman. I wasn't surprised or offended by this. My sister had always been a mommy's girl, and they both enjoyed spending time with each other, shopping and socializing, so they had a very close bond. The same goes for my father and brother. They always played football together and messed around with cars. My father even trained my brother's team for a while in middle school. Dad had always left me as the odd one out. I tried to insert myself in my family's hobbies and groups that they had within our home, but was always rebuffed. Maybe they could sense that my interest on their activities wasn't all that genuine, or maybe they just didn't care. Either way, I was used to being the last and least important member of my family. Mom had sis and dad had bro. My parents had each other and my two siblings were closer to each other than they were ever to me, leaving me very lonely and isolated in my own home. During the preparation for the wedding, initially it was suggested that I be the flower girl, but my sister thought that role would be more appropriate for a daughter of 3 female, so that idea was quickly tossed away. Later on, my maternal grandmother suggested that I might read a poem or do a little bit of speech during the ceremony. But both my parents refused because they wanted the wedding to be low-key, and they didn't think a cheesy and sappy speech would fit their vision. Their literal words. I was still okay with all of this, even though it hurt to know I would be the only member of the family to not actually be part of the wedding party, or have any role at all on the day. As the day approached, my parents and siblings got more and more caught up on all the wedding planning. I noticed my mom didn't invite me dress shopping, and that whenever they would have discussions about the venue or the event, I was left out. So I decided to see if they would realize that I wasn't being involved at all and kept quiet, waiting for them to ask me something, anything, about the wedding. But that never happened. The wedding was set for 3 weeks ago, the end of August. The day before the departure, my mother casually asked if I had my luggage ready because we couldn't be late on the airport. I bluntly told her that I hadn't prepared anything. She got confused for a second and then snapped at me for not being prepared. I then asked if I even had a ticket, and her face went pale. Yep, they hadn't even bought me a ticket, and I'm not even sure if I had a room or any accommodations once there. Even though I was the only person in my family without a stable income, I work as a part-time babysitter. My parents had bought first-class tickets for my siblings and a couple other friends that were attending the wedding but had forgotten me. My mom told me not to make a big deal out of it, and that they can just find me a low-cost ticket last minute from a cheap airline. But I just replied by asking her, then what? Do I even have a dress for the ceremony? She went with sister to buy hers and all the other female guests months ago, but I wasn't included. That's when my father came in and just told me to suck it up and that I've never been a girly girl, so I could just wear whatever. I got mad at this because even though I'm not the most feminine girl in the planet, I would have loved to be included in such an important part of my parents' wedding. And it was about the fact that I was excluded for literally everything that had been going on for months. We all got into a fight, with them calling me entitled and accusing me of making myself small intentionally so they would forget me. Like that is a valid excuse for ignoring a child. They ended up telling me that if I was going to keep this attitude, I might as well skip the whole thing together. To which I responded with a defiant, fine, and went to my room. Next morning, they all left for Hawaii without me. The ceremony was really small, but they all posted loads of pictures on Insta and Facebook about how perfect and magical that whole week was being. People realized quickly that I wasn't in any of the photos and asked my parents why, to which they replied that unfortunately I had caught COVID before the trip and had to stay behind. My blood boiled at this. I don't know why this was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, but it was. I decided to take a COVID test and published a picture of myself holding the negative test and captioned it, "Not sick at all, just forgotten." I tagged everyone that had questioned my absence from the trip and the wedding in the picture and, for good measure, also every person invited to it. I also wrote in the comments about how my parents had literally forgotten about anything to do with me until the day before parting and how they actually uninvited me. Most people were on my side, and others couldn't believe it and thought there must be something more to the story than what I was saying. But one thing is for certain, I completely ruined my parents' wedding, and their day was overshadowed by my confession. At first, I felt quite satisfied with myself for standing up on my own, but after a barrage of messages from my family, calling me every name in the book, and later when they came back, them furiously attacking me for my immature actions and my spoiled behavior, my pride deflated quickly, and I began to feel awful. I hate my family, and I hate being in this house, but I'm a minor and can't leave just yet. I do feel like I could have handled this situation better though, and now I feel so depressed that I'm second-guessing everything I did, from not speaking up before to the way I exposed them. I also feel guilty for the lack of connection between all of my family and me, and maybe I could have done more? Am I the a-hole for ruining my parents' wedding when they forgot about me? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not a-hole. How could you have ruined a wedding they had exactly as they planned? You weren't invited, didn't attend, and didn't have any effect on the planning or details. Could Opie be an affair child? She is quite a few years younger than her siblings, and it would explain a lot. I am the now adult child of a narcissist. Some parents really do suck this hard, even if the child is 100% their bio kid. Not saying she isn't an affair child, but figuring that out at this point won't help anything. The parents are just mad that their neglect is now public, so they are trying to shame Opie into recanting her version of events. That, plus they want to punish her. Best of luck, Opie. You deserve better. I have a similar family dynamic to you, Opie, although I'm the oldest. I wasn't asked to go on family vacations. My birthday was always forgotten about. If my mom and younger siblings wanted to go out to eat for family dinner while I was at work, they would leave and not say a word to me. Not a-hole. Don't let them make you feel guilty. As soon as I could, I moved out. Didn't say a word to anyone in my immediate family, just packed a bag and was gone. I'm no contact with everyone but my little sister, and even she's on probation with regards to visits and hanging out. I'm sorry for you and that we are on the same boat. I want to move out, but I have no place to go now. I had a summer job besides babysitting, and I've been saving up some money. But I live in a very expensive city, and I need another job before I can plan anything. Be strong. Don't let them get under your skin. Even if you have to get roommates or move in with a friend, leave as soon as you're comfortable with finances. There are Facebook groups and such for looking for roommates, especially in high cost of living areas. I know that's what I should be doing. I do have a friend that is moving to a studio apartment near our college, but I don't have a job at the moment, and I don't want to be a burden to her. She and I are close, so I'm sure she would offer for me to move in with her, but I don't want to be a burden. Also, I don't have a job at the moment, so I couldn't pay rent, so that's something else I need to do at the moment. Now for the update few days later. Hi everyone! I wanted to write an update earlier, but I'm still kind of a mess at the moment. But I figured since my post had such an overwhelming response, and so many people commented and sent me messages, that I should write about the latest developments. First of all, let me start by thanking all that commented on my post and shared their own experiences or point of view on my situation. Thank you so much. A few days ago, I could barely find the energy to get out of bed, and my family's comments had made me really believe that I was guilty for all that had passed. But after seeing the responses to my post and all the support you guys were giving me, I felt somewhat reaffirmed in my actions and feelings towards my family. I'm still fighting the feelings of guilt and depression, but whenever I start to spiral, I think on how much this community of strangers has had my back, and I try to calm myself down with your words. Thanks to your input and advice, I finally decided to call my grandma and tell her the full story. Just to clarify a point before going on, my grandma, 77 female, did not attend the wedding. She lives several states away and has mobility issues, so she doesn't travel anymore. We went to visit her around Easter, and that's when she commented that I might read a poem at the ceremony. But that was the last time I saw her in person before all this. She's always been very loving to me and has called out my parents in the past for their favoritism. But it's hard for her to play a more active role in my upbringing since she lives so far, and I'm always worried about bothering her due to her age and health condition. She had a minor stroke a few years back and is now back to normal, but I still worry. Anyway, I called her and laid out everything that had happened with the wedding and how my parents didn't even buy me a ticket to go with them. She came to the same conclusion that most commenters did when I told her that it was simply impossible that they had forgotten and that they did it on purpose. I cried on the phone with her, laying out how I was feeling, how this has been going on forever, how I feel in the aftermath, and most importantly about my need to get out. She was extremely sweet and comforting to me and told me that I had nothing else to worry about because she had my back 100%, and told me to take it easy but make plans for my future and that she'd help me. After that conversation, which lasted about 2 hours, I felt better and I decided to listen to her and start moving to figure something out for the next school year. I have a friend who is going to lease a studio next to our future campus. She has a great relationship with her parents, but she has 5 younger siblings and wants to be more independent, so that's why she decided to move out. I asked her if I could move in with her temporarily and that I would pay her rent as soon as I got a job. She immediately accepted and told me not to worry about rent or anything else until I was in a better position. And we had a good cry together when I told her all about my parents' wedding incident. So this all happened a couple days ago and I was planning on doing the update then, but my grandma called my parents and siblings to lecture them about how they were treating me. My brother just sent me a text afterwards with a half-hearted apology, saying that he didn't know I wasn't included and that he just thought I wouldn't have fun on the trip, and then I posted a picture just to create drama. My sister, on the other hand, berated me and told me that I kept trying to make public my own problems and pitting them on my family when they are all innocent. It has been weird with my parents ever since they came back from the trip, and at first they berated me and were furious with me, and after that we've just been ignoring each other. After my grandma called them, they came into my room telling me that if I wanted to put this whole issue to rest, I should shut up about it, and that this could all had already blown over if only I had kept my mouth shut. I just asked them to leave my room, and then I called my grandma again to tell her what had gone down. She then told me that she and my uncle had bought plane tickets to come down to see me. This was something that I was actually scared about because my grandma's health is not the best, and this kind of effort is a lot for her. And I know how complicated it is for her to get on a plane. So I tried to dissuade her from coming and told her everything would be okay. But she wouldn't listen and told me that she was long overdue a conversation with my parents and that she wanted to see me. I'm stressed for her, and I feel again like I forced her to take a long uncomfortable trip because of me, and that maybe I should have dealt with this myself. I do want to see her, and I wish for nothing more than to hug her right now, but I'm worried about her. At least my uncle, mom's older brother, is coming with her, but I hope she doesn't exhaust herself or nothing happens to her because that would break me. They arrive tomorrow and have not informed my parents of their trip. My grandma asked me to keep it until she gets here. I hope she is able to make my parents see the mistake in their actions, or at the very least, help me break the news to them that I'm moving out very soon, and I plan on being no contact with them. I don't know. I'm worried about her having to do so much for me and bothering her, but I also appreciate and love her so much for doing all this for me. Your grandma is amazing. It's so great that she has your back and is willing to stand up to your parents. And don't worry about her making the trip. She sounds like a strong and determined woman. Plus, you deserve to have someone on your side who will fight for you. Keep us updated on how everything goes with your family. And remember, you have a whole community here to support you. Best of luck with your future plans. She should use her oxygen tank to beat some sense into them. I have a feeling she will do something if she is having health issues but is making the trip. It's definitely to bang some heads together. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after I found out she lied about her finances? So I, 28 female, recently found myself in a really tough spot with my little sister, 25 female, and I'm struggling to figure out if I'm in the wrong here. A little backstory. My sister has been planning her wedding for over a year, and I've been saving up to help her out financially. Our family isn't wealthy, so we all pitched in a portion to make her dream wedding come true. So approximately 3 months ago, she told me that her wedding budget was way over the limit, and she asked if I could give her an extra $10,000 to cover costs into $5,000 payments. Of course, this is a lot of money, lol, so naturally I was a bit hesitant, but she's my little sis, so of course I wanted to support her. Long story short, I agreed to help, even though it meant dipping into my own savings. She promised that this would be the last of her financial requests and assured me that her budget was tight but manageable. Fast forward to last week, I found out through a mutual friend that my sister actually had saved up a significant amount of money on her own and had been misrepresenting her financial situation to our immediate family, me, mom, and dad, who are all pitching in. Before anyone asks me if I am sure, yes, I am. I know this, as part of the money I gave her was to help cover hotel costs for guests, normal in my culture for anyone wondering. I'm mentioning this because it was through a mutual friend I found out rooms per night in this hotel were actually $110, but in other conversations with me, she told me it was $200, a big difference. She also told my mom and I that her and her fiancé are not having a honeymoon to save on costs. Turns out, that's not true, as it was found out she sent pictures of flight reservation to Fiji on her girls' group chat. An extremely expensive location. It is very clear her plan was to use the extra money to fund her lavish honeymoon and to splurge on some high-end wedding accessories that weren't budgeted for. When I confronted her, she admitted to exaggerating the financial strain to get more money from me and others. I was obviously furious. I feel like she took advantage of my generosity, and now I'm rethinking whether I should still help with the remaining wedding costs. She's been begging me to reconsider, but I can't get over the betrayal. My family's divided. Some think I'm being too harsh and should just overlook it, as they are saying it's her wedding and it's not nice to ruin things last minute, while my friends and husband agree that she crossed a line. I don't want to be the villain in this story, but I also can't shake the feeling that she needs to face the consequences of her actions. So am I the a-hole for refusing to pay the remaining $5,000 for my sister's wedding after discovering she lied about her finances? Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. Your family is correct in saying it's her wedding and it's not nice to ruin things last minute. But you are not the one ruining things. It's her lies and her leeching. Why should you dip into your savings when it's not your wedding? Your savings have a purpose, and that does not include sponsoring a Fiji honeymoon. Also, divorce yourself from the attitude that she's little. She is a grown adult. What is her future husband paying for if you are all paying for the wedding and honeymoon? Cancel the honeymoon. I'm sure that's $5,000. Problem solved. Tell her you lied when you said you'd give her $10,000. You were exaggerating. Sister needs a sit-down discussion. Make her explain to everyone how much money she hid. No one will give her anything more, and she will repay the value of what she hid to those who donated it. This is basically fraud. It is not something you let go. It's paying for a holiday, not surgery. She needs to give everyone a groveling apology.
Am I the a-hole for telling my sister her rainbow baby isn't special? I, 27 female, have a set of twins, Ben and Betty. They just turned 6. My sister, 32 female, has Connor, who is 4. My sister and her husband lost their first baby due to SIDS. It was devastating for the whole family. That was behind my sister 100% of the way. I couldn't imagine what it was like. Anyway, when she found out she was pregnant with Connor, we were all excited. The pregnancy went well and Connor got a good bill of health. Everything was fine. I love my sister and I love my nephew. But my sister is convinced that because he's her rainbow baby, that means he can do whatever he wants. Connor is incredibly spoiled and a brat. He throws fits to get his way, hits, kicks, cries, whatever it takes. My sister and her husband give him no discipline. He's their rainbow baby, so that is their excuse for his bad behavior. Their lives are to serve whatever Connor wants. Every year, my family takes a vacation. Me, my husband, kids, sister, and her husband, and our parents. We all decided on Yellowstone. Last minute, my sister tried to get us to change to Disney World, and we refused because we felt our kids were still too young for it. They ended coming to Yellowstone, but complained the whole time that Connor wasn't having fun. That is just a brief example. So now on to the reason for the post. My twins just turned 6, and we had a small party for them. We invited friends from their daycare and some family. Everyone was having a good time but Connor. He wanted cake. Didn't like the games, wanted to watch TV, wanted ice cream now, didn't want other kids to touch him, etc. Basically, the whole party Connor threw a tantrum. The final straw came at present time. My husband went to get the gifts out the living room only to find Connor had ripped nearly all of them open. My sister made excuses, saying he just excited and wanted to play with my kids' new toys. I lost it. I told her that Connor isn't special, that he's a brat and has been ruining the party since he got there. My sister immediately went on the his/her rainbow baby. I didn't mean it, and maybe I should have put the presents where he couldn't get them. They were in the living room. The party was outside. No one was inside. I lost my temper. I know I did. But this was my kid's party though. I said some nasty things to her. Told her that Connor isn't a baby anymore. He's not special. And she's raising a self-centered brat who will grow up to be a self-centered adult. She left the party. Later, my parents called. They said they understood my frustrations and everything about the situation, then said they still felt like I should apologize to my sister. Why? Because I have 2 healthy kids. Well, she lost one, and she's still having to deal with it. I told them no. My sister should apologize for how her son acted at the party. My husband and the guests who were at the party are on my side. My sister hasn't really spoken to me in a few days. Just posted passive-aggressive things on social media, which I just blocked her. Am I the a-hole here? Edit. Just to clear up some things in the comments. A lot of people have suggested my sister should have went to therapy, and she did. My sister and I got pregnant around the same time, so we were excited to raise our kids together. However, her child died a few weeks after being born while I had twins. We did attend therapy together because I felt guilt for having 2 kids while her one kid died. I have been nothing but 100% supportive of her. My family and I have tried talking to her and husband in the past about Connor's behavior, because this didn't happen overnight. This has been happening since he could walk. They ignore us and throw their dead baby in our face when we bring up something about Connor. The party just brought everything to a head for me and I lost my temper. I accept that. We have decided that we aren't going to talk to my sister or husband till things cool down some more and she's willing to listen to what we have to say. None of us are downplaying the fact she lost a child. I know Connor is special to her, but the rest of the world isn't going to see it that way. Thanks to those who ask if my kids are okay. They're okay, and the party went on after my sister left. My kids got to open some gifts that Connor didn't get to. Now for the top comments. Not a day-hole at all. Is he still going to be the rainbow baby in high school? I'm sure when he commits his first crime, the judge will be very understanding that the rainbow baby needs cuddles and not confinement. Can you imagine him trying to use the excuse, "but I am a rainbow baby," for everything in school? He can't be charged with a DUI. He's a rainbow baby. He can't be expelled for fighting. He's a rainbow baby. He can't get divorced. He's a rainbow baby. He had to get into this college. He's a rainbow baby. Laughing my butt off. What if he fights another rainbow baby? What are the rules there? Not a day-hole. Connor knows what he's doing. He knows his mom and dad let him get away with anything because he's special. And I would bet every day they tell him that he is special. There is nothing wrong with loving your child, but clearly your sister and husband could use some family therapy to deal with the loss of their first child. They haven't gotten over it. Connor is basically the replacement for their dead baby, and that is going to mess him up in life. You admitted you lost your temper and said some nasty things. In this case, you had every right to do so. Your sister was letting Connor dictate the party. Who opens someone's presents? She likely took him inside, let him open them, and thought you wouldn't say anything. You're not a holopy. Connor knows what he's doing. Hate to single this part out because I agree with the rest of the post, but the kid is 4. He will know what he's doing if this parenting continues, but no, he does not know what he's doing. A 4-year-old with no discipline or boundaries or consequences is more or less an untrained puppy. At 4, you still don't even have an understanding that other people exist outside of your world. Look up theory of mind, which you don't really get until around 5. Generally, your post is still valid, but it kind of places too much blame on a 4-year-old who is the, albeit horrible, byproduct of an awful parenting. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling this mom the truth about why her son wasn't invited to a sleepover party? My son just turned 10, and for his birthday wanted to do a superhero slumber party. We did something similar the last 2 years, not for his 9th birthday for obvious reasons, and they all had a blast. The party started around 3. We did pizza, movies, popcorn, and designed superhero masks. My son was friends with a boy named James from his class. Came to the last 2 sleepover parties, and while well behaved, it was his parents who I felt were the problem. When we send out the invites, we tell the parents when the party is and what time to pick the kids up the next day. For the last 2 parties, James was always the last one to be picked up. For his 8th birthday, we specifically stated that all kiddos should be picked up by 11 a.m. We had plans to go out to my in-laws for his birthday party, which was on his actual birthday. We had 5 boys, including our son, at the party, and 3 of them were picked up by 11 a.m. At 11:30, I texted James's mom and asked if she was coming to get him. She said she was on her way. I assumed she ran an errand and was just running behind. No big deal. By 12:30, she hadn't shown up. I texted her again and I reminded her that we had somewhere to be and she needed to get here as soon as possible. She responded that she was eating lunch and would be there soon. By 2 p.m., I texted her again and let her know that she needs to pick up her son ASAP, that we were getting ready to leave in an hour, and her son was not invited to come with us. I had assumed that would prompt her to come get him. By 4 p.m., my husband left with our kids to my in-laws, and I called James's mother. I left her a voicemail and told her that if she was not at my house in 30 minutes to pick up her son, I was calling the police to inform them that he was an abandoned child. She showed up within 15 minutes to get him. She made a half-baked apology about how she was busy with errands and running her other children to their activities. Today, I received a text message from her about why James was not invited to the sleepover party. Apparently, one of the other moms was talking about how much fun the kids had at the party, and she wanted to know why her son was not invited. So I told her the truth, that her son was not invited because I was not sure if she could come get him in a timely manner and without disrupting our plans for the rest of the day. I explained that anytime her son is at my house, she's always late to pick him up and I was tired of catering to her schedule. She called me an uppity witch and has since blocked me on social media and her phone. Am I the a-hole for telling her why her son was not invited? Post-edit. Because this has been asked a lot, we do not suspect any kind of mistreatment in the home. I am a nurse, so I would be obligated to report this if I expected that this was happening. James's mom has 4 children. Her other son is in scouts with my son. They are always the last to be dropped off / picked up because of her other kids' activities. Her husband does drop off and pick up the kids, and he is on time. Our parties and scout meetings just happen to fall on days and times when he is not available. We are not the only parents who have discussed this with her. Multiple parents from the group have said that the same issue with her not coming to pick him or her other kids up on time. She's just a chronically late person, and I am not really sure what to do to help out with this. Not a-hole. This mom sucks, to put it mildly, and I feel sorry for her kid. She was using you for free daycare and doesn't care enough about her kid. It's weird how she was able to pick up her kid in 15 minutes once the threats got real. Exactly. And she doesn't even care enough about her son's involvement in the next party to just give a decent apology and ask for another chance. She jumps straight to insults and blocking. Not a-hole. You gave her the honest reason based on experience. Instead of saying, "You're right, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to have my child punished for my behavior, so could you please give him / me another chance?" And she responded with profanity and blocked you. That's a good way to ensure the poor kid will never be invited again. And no doubt other parents feel the same way. Not a-hole. It sucks that her kid has to pay the price, but picking up your kid 5 hours after the agreed upon time is BS. She was 100% using you as a babysitter and was enjoying her day minus James. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she's blaming her daughter too much for her ex's actions? My sister has a daughter, 15, with her ex-husband. When she was pregnant with him, her ex turned out to be a not very kind person. All the kindness and understanding we had seen before was gone, and by the time my niece was born, she was done. They had reached the point of no return. When my niece was 4, she met her husband. Her ex was pissed, forbade my sister from having her husband around my niece, even took her to court to say he wasn't allowed to interact with his daughter. The court laughed it off, of course, but her ex was very quick to be loud about how my brother-in-law was nothing to my niece, and how he would never be anything to her. My sister brought it to court, but nothing happened, and they went about life as normal, sharing equal custody of my niece and living life. She has 3 more kids with brother-in-law, ages 9, 7, and 4. My niece is very quick to correct anyone who calls them her siblings, and adds in the half or says they're not her real siblings. My sister has corrected her, has punished her, and has told her that half is not a term they use. They're siblings, and that's it. My niece does not agree, and in the 9 years of having a younger sibling, she's never said just sibling. She has almost no relationship with her younger siblings. And my sister is pissed. Like, she has told us she is ashamed of niece and is disgusted with her. She has told her she is ashamed and disgusted, and will come back to us even more angry because that doesn't change how my niece feels or acts. She told me and our brother the other day that she's disgusted by her daughter, and she can't stand who she is, and she's thinking of locking her up all summer to get through to her. I told her she's blaming my niece too much when she knows it's coming from her ex. That she should try to understand better that my niece is caught between what she says and what her dad says. And while we all think is an a-hole, she thinks the world of her dad, and she would defend him with her dying breath and is going to be caught up in what she said. I said it doesn't matter her being mean, right? But that anger needs to go toward her ex for this, and not the kid who is stuck in the middle. My brother backed me up and said that at the end of the day, niece didn't ask for any of this, and is still growing and learning. My sister was pissed though. She said, how dare I say she's being too hard when she can't just think of niece, and how dare I think she's not mad at her ex. She tore both of us down for it and told us we were unsupportive, judgmental a-holes. And she's still mad with a capital M. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You said it perfectly. All sister is going to succeed in doing is alienating her daughter. At the age of 15, she can decide she wants to live with her dad, and most judges will side with her, especially if she explains that mom is punishing her for calling mom and stepdad's kids her half-siblings, and that she plans to lock her up for the summer until she sees it mom's way. I feel so sorry for the daughter. I've had friends who've been stuck in custody battles, and it's a pain. I hope you're not the a-hole. Honestly, that entire sister's family seems like a crap hole for the daughter. Sister's going to lose her kid if she doesn't immediately turn her mindset around and support her. With kids, the carrot works better than the stick. Who knows, maybe being nicer about it and having her feel comfortable in that home will eventually make the daughter call her half-sibling siblings. If she doesn't, who cares? Positive reinforcement is the way to go here. It repairs the relationship and has a chance to make her do what sister wants. However, never use this positive reinforcement to try and push daughter to do what sister wants. If she doesn't want to, no point in trying to make her change her mind. Not a a-hole. At all. What you said is right. And someday, niece may come to understand she has been under the influence of her dad. But your sister can't force her to acknowledge her siblings. Yep, and what her mom is currently doing / planning to do will make sure she'll have essentially no good parent figures in her life. I am sad for the girl. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my son's parents from my house and refusing to let them see him? My ex from high school got pregnant and had my son. Biologically he's not mine, but I always considered him my own. I was already at another college, 18 years old at the time, hours away, so she didn't tell me about him until he was almost 7 months old. We got back together and I raised him as my own. Was I stupid for not thinking about a paternity test? Maybe, but I still consider that one of the greatest blessings in disguise despite all the hurt. So fast forward 80 years later, I find out my ex has been cheating on me and broke up with her. She tells me my son's not mine, and it's been this other guy. We had a paternity test that proved it was true, and it crushed me. I was refusing to get back together with her or let her move back into my apartment, so she kept my son away from me. I didn't have that kind of money to fight it in court, and she started bringing the other guy around to see my son. They got him on the birth certificate, and it was just a whole mess. They got married a year later and moved away. My family convinced me to let it go and accept that my son has his new family, so stop putting myself through this heartache. Eventually I did, and I always hoped I'd see him again, and thank God I did. More like he looked for me. My son is barely 19, and we've reconnected again. My son at first admitted he's been mad at me because he thinks my ex and I broke up, then I decided to stay out of his life. He knows who his biological father is. They're still married. But he was told that we decided to go our separate ways. As in, I made that choice. I told him the entire truth. And that's caused him to move out of their place. For the last couple months, he's been staying here because his other family is just pushing him to talk to his parents. And he wants space away from all that. Where I might be the a-hole. They found out he's staying with me and have come to my place. The last time they came, I shut the door on them and told them to get out because he doesn't want to see them. I'll admit I'm angry for what they did to me too, but also for the lies they told him. Her family, plus them, believe in being an a-hole for kicking them out of my home when they are only trying to see their son, and also for not helping to mend things as it's in his best interest. I've been mostly reacting out of emotion and my son's wishes. Especially when I kicked them out, so that's why I'm not sure if I was an a-hole here or not. Not an a-hole. She took your son away from you. Yes, it's your son. You raised him and you loved him. You were a true parent, and I'm glad you were connected. They don't get to come to your house and ask for anything. Your son isn't comfortable being around them, so be it. Their adult child asks for space and time. They are willing to give him neither. Hope he's not a-hole for sure. Well, they didn't do what was best for an almost 9-year-old. Why would they suddenly do what's best for him now? How are you the a-hole for kicking adults out of your house when they were trying to see another adult? You're not withholding a child from his parents. Not the a-hole. I guess because they're trying to make things right with him, and maybe not thinking in his best interest the way I should be. That's why I just wanted to check in with others. He's old enough to know what he wants, and he can reach out to them at any time. Keep them away from him. That's why I left. Am I the a-hole for requiring my son and his wife sign a contract before I give the stepchildren college money? I, 56 male, have 3 children. Sam, 32 male, Eve, 30 female, and Amy, 28 female. Sam and Eve are married with children, and my wife and I started college funds for them that we put money in at least twice a year. Sam married a woman, Jane, 36 female, who already had 2 children from a previous relationship, and we have accepted them as part of the family once they proved that they were serious. My wife and I invite them over, give them presents, attend after-school activities, occasionally babysit, and don't mind that they call us grandpa and grandma. During our first in-person family get-together since COVID, my wife and our children and their children came over along with my sister-in-law and her family. It was especially nice because this was the first time that we were meeting sister-in-law's first grandchild, a sweet baby girl who's 8 months old. The topic of saving up for college came up, and my wife casually mentioned about how we started up college funds for all 3 grandchildren. Sam's wife overheard and walked in laughing to say, "You mean 5. Not wanting to cause any future problems through miscommunication, I corrected and explained things to Jane. She didn't seem upset at the time, but after everyone had left, Sam called and said how upset he and Jane were that we didn't start up funds for Sam's stepchildren. I told him that it was our money, and we could do whatever we wanted with it, and to think of it as a way to focus any money that they would have put towards his biological child to just give to the stepchildren. I thought that my reasoning was logical, and thought that my son agreed when he stopped talking about it. Again, we were called about the lack of funding for the stepchildren, and Jane wanted to know why we weren't treating them equally. I calmly explained that in almost every other way, we do treat the kids like our other grandchildren, but their ties to us are only there through marriage. And if Sam and Jane were to divorce, then they may not be our grandchildren anymore. Jane was really hurt by this, and asked me if that meant that her kids wouldn't inherit anything once my wife and I were gone. I felt very offended because that was a personal question, but answered yes. If Jane and Sam were still married by the time we died, her kids would get something. But if she wanted it to be an equal share as to start a college fund for the first 2 kids, then she and Sam would need to sign an agreement stating that they would never divorce. Jane got offended, and I asked her why she would be if she truly loves my son and never intends to divorce him. My other children agree that signing an agreement wouldn't be a big deal, but Sam is upset too. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, because I know that this might come up. I am aware that blood ties aren't always what makes people family, and as far as I know, Sam hasn't legally adopted Jane's first 2 children. Also, when the college funds were mentioned, we were out of earshot from all the children, so the only way Jane's kids would find out is if an adult tells them. Edited to add too. 1, because I keep seeing this. No, this agreement wouldn't be to keep them from getting a divorce. That's ridiculous. It would be in regards to both my son and Jane paying back any of the college fund money that the stepkids use. 2, yes, my wife and I are more well off than Jane's parents. So if they are starting a college fund, I don't expect it to be as much as we could contribute. 3, no, I don't know about the stepkids' biological paternal side, as they live elsewhere, and my wife and I have no reason to be in communication with them. I can only ever think of one time that I've actually seen them in person. Edited to add 3, another one because I'm still getting the same thing, so I'll explain my reasoning a bit more. No matter what happens with my children's marriages, their children will always be my grandchildren from both a legal and biological standpoint. The same can't be said for Jane's kids, because what happens if she and my son divorce and each of them remarry? Am I supposed to still give her first 2 children an equal amount as everyone else? Also, what if Sam marries another woman with kids, and I'm expected to be just as financially responsible for them as the others? Where does it end? Also, that means that there will be less money all around, and I don't want to do that. Now for the top comments. Not a a-hole, assuming that the contract doesn't prevent them from divorcing. Please be clear in your language when talking about contracts. However, I would change the phrasing of the contract to indicate enforceable conditions. Answering as someone who has read a lot of family law cases with a lot of drama worse than this. 1, if she really doesn't have any plans to divorce your son anyway, why can't she sign a contract? Because she wants the privileges with no strings attached. 2, primarily it is the parents' responsibility to provide support for their stepchildren, not the responsibility as a grandparent. It is easy for them to use guilt and make you give money when it doesn't involve any sacrifice on their part. Why can't your son and his wife provide for the education for the stepchildren? Why can't your son give up his inheritance if the college fund is so important? 3, it is your son's decision to accept them as stepchildren, and you are merely respecting and agreeing with this decision. Your relation to them is a mere side effect, not your direct, independent, personal decision. 4, legally, his stepchildren can still indirectly inherit through him anyway. 5, legally, the stepchildren can claim support from their biological dad, depending on the country's law and the facts surrounding the situation. 6, your money, your decision. You are already treating/seeing your son's stepchildren as equal to your biological children, but it doesn't mean you have to give them a lot of money conditionally. Your relation to them will be severed the moment your son and his wife divorce. 7, my spidey senses tell me that his wife has a sense of entitlement. Also, please look into trust administrators for your bio-grandkids' money. There have been enough posts here to anticipate Sam and Jane pressuring Sam's bio-kids to share their money with the stepkids. Damn straight. You know that will happen already. I could see the piece of work daughter-in-law pressuring Sam's siblings to pool their kids' money together with theirs for the stepkids. Not a a-hole. My aunts and uncles went through a number of marriages when I was a kid, often with stepchildren. Despite how much the then-married couples claimed their love was forever, the majority of those marriages didn't last until the kids reached adulthood, much less finished college. When it comes to people, I'm only connected to via someone else's marriage. I'm aware that I may not be connected to them for long. I agree. The son and wife have every right to feel the way they do, but this grandparent also has every right to save/use their money in what they feel is the best thing. I wouldn't expect my step-parents or their parents to save money for me, even though I came into their life when I was young. Yes, they treat me like their other grandchildren, but I know that if my parents/step-parents were to divorce, it'd cause a shift in our relationship with the extended family. I don't think Opie's the a-hole. I don't really see how it's the grandparents' responsibility to save college money for the grandkids. It should be the parents, so it's a nice thing you're doing. They should be grateful. This Jane seems very entitled, and you should stand your ground because divorces are too likely to happen. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother my stepdad's not my dad? My dad was in my life until he died when I, male 16, was 7. My mom was already married to my stepdad AJ by then, and my brother was barely 1 year old. I never considered AJ anything than just my brother's dad. For a long time, my mom kept trying to make me call him dad because my brother copied everything I do, and he started calling his dad AJ too. But he grew out of that and just calls him dad now. I can tell AJ don't like that we don't have that kind of relationship and been in family therapy before. The therapist basically told them to give me my space and I shouldn't be pressured. So they dropped the sessions. Lol. I don't know why out of the blue my brother randomly asked me a few days ago, how come I always called dad AJ? And I told him because AJ is not my real dad. He never asked this before, so it caught me by surprise. My brother told me I'm lying. How could he not be my dad? And I told him my real dad died when I was little, so that's how AJ isn't my dad. But then he asked if that means we're not brothers. And I told him we are because we have the same mom. He just had a million questions about my dad after that, so I told him what I remember. But my mom got mad at me for telling him that AJ is not my real dad, and making it seem like I don't consider him family, and that I just confused my brother about our family. I don't know why, but now AJ is ignoring me when I'm in the room, and it gets awkward when my brother asks more questions about my dad in front of them. Was I an a-hole for telling him the truth? Not an a-hole. Your mom shouldn't hide the truth about your real dad. Just disrespectful to his life. Your brother will understand and love you all the same. Yeah, my brother hasn't acted different. Just ask more random questions about him sometimes. He asked, you answered. Your mom and AJ should have known that would happen someday. It's not a bad thing that he knows that he's asking questions so that it will all make sense to him. Not an a-hole. Not an a-hole. Your mom is trying to force a relationship. You're right, AJ isn't your dad, and you don't have to call him such. It sounds like you have a cordial relationship. Your mom is just mad she has to do the labor of facilitating a blended family, which is her job, so tough luck to her. You're 16, not 6 months. You get to decide who you feel familial towards. And trying to erase Opie's dad's memory. That is so unbelievably crappy. Not an a-hole completely. Your brother is still young and doesn't understand how having a step-family work yet. So in the words of /, I will give you 5 over 5 buttholes for telling him something that most likely will change his outlook on life forever. Let me explain why you aren't the a-hole and shouldn't feel like one. 1. Your brother was going to learn anyway. 2. You don't feel comfortable calling AJ your dad because he technically isn't, and you don't have that bond with him. Your mom needs to understand that. 3. AJ ignoring you means that he's hurt, but more butthurt that you aren't doing things the way he wants. Your younger brother did nothing wrong and was just curious, and you answered his question. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for insulting my brother as a parent after his repeated suggestions about leaving my wife? Over a year and a half ago, my wife was in a serious car accident that's changed our lives. She suffered serious injuries, and she almost didn't make it. By some miracle, she pulled through, but now she's permanently paralyzed from the waist down. We had a 5-month-old baby girl, and I'm not going to lie, it was a major challenge for us both settling into our new lives and managing parenthood. I was the one doing most of the childcare while my wife recovered. My family has been very supportive and lending a helping hand every now and then. My brother, not so much, but then again, we're not that close. Over the past year when we'd talk, he'd say things like, "Man, I don't know how you have the patience for her anymore. Just leave already." Or make comments about my wife being kind of selfish for not at least suggesting I be allowed to see other people given that we won't be intimate anymore. Completely untrue, but not really his business. My family and myself have berated him for talking that way, and I've told him to watch what he says. None of this was ever said in front of my wife, but it still bothered me. Recently, I was talking with my parents and brother on Zoom. My daughter has been having trouble sleeping, so I've been quite tired. My brother again ran his mouth. He doesn't understand why I'm still bothering with her when she's no longer doing me any good, and offered to give me his divorce attorney's information because I obviously didn't sign up to be my wife's babysitter on top of parenting. This irked me because 1, my wife has been perfectly capable of taking care of herself. Obviously, she still needs assistance sometimes, and I help her. And 2, I still love my wife very much, and not going to leave her because it's no longer beneficial, as it puts it. And I told him as such. I also brought up that, unlike him, I don't dip out when there's trouble and shirk my responsibilities. That upset him too, so he ended a call. I brought this up because my brother divorced his wife, and since then he only sees my niece, his daughter, whenever he feels like it, which is rare. My parents have scolded me for stooping to his level. My brother also says I'm a prick when he's just thinking about my best interest, and that's no reason to drag him. I'll admit I was pretty pissed off in the moment. So maybe I was an a-hole? Now for the comments. Not an a-hole. Your brother needs to mind his own business, and I'm shocked that your parents are scolding you. Good luck to you and your wife with everything. You sound like a good husband. I think because everyone in my family is used to my brother and his unfiltered opinions, and it's just him being his usual self. Well, sounds like his usual self is an a-hole. It's good that you stood up to him. Someone clearly needed to. It almost sounds like your brother has the opinion your wife can't be intimate with you, whether it's true or not, and so she's not worth the time anymore? This just screams what kind of person he is, to be honest. Also, doesn't marriage vows usually say something about in sickness and in health? So when he callously said, "You didn't sign up for this," he's not even right anyway. Not a hole. And thank you for taking your marriage and wife seriously. Many people would unfortunately have the opinion your brother does, and those people are a-holes. That's been a major factor in why he thinks I should leave her or feels I should at least be allowed to have fun on the side. I don't imagine ever leaving my wife, much less over something like this. Was it hard? Yes. Did I have my own moments where I felt completely broken down because it was all too overwhelming? Absolutely. But we've made it out stronger. And it just felt like he was disrespecting how far we've come by acting like she's been nothing but a chore. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not leaving work to bring my pregnant wife a change of shoes? My 30-male wife, Charlotte, 38 female, is a very senior corporate lawyer and works in the city. She's mostly been working from home due to events, but recently they've started to return to the office. Charlotte is also 5 months pregnant. Charlotte wears heels pretty much everywhere that isn't home or the gym. I always suggest she take a spare pair of flats, but she always refuses. She says it's a matter of pride. She's gotten to a point in the pregnancy where her feet are starting to swell, so it's becoming increasingly uncomfortable wearing her shoes. However, she has still refused to take flats with her. I work in construction, and my current site is about an hour away from Charlotte's office. I got a call from her yesterday. She said that her feet were in agony, and she didn't think she would be able to walk to the train station and go on the train home in her heels. She wanted me to find a shoe shop and buy a cheap pair of trainers or flip-flops, or alternatively bring my trainers. I normally wear trainers to work and then change into my work boots, so she could wear them home. The problem was that my shift didn't end for another couple of hours after she finished work. I asked my boss if I could leave to help my wife, but he refused as there is a lot of work to do. I asked Charlotte if she'd be willing to wait at the office for me, but she said she didn't want to. When I got home, I found Charlotte curled up sobbing. She said she forced herself to get home in heels and that her feet were in pain. She's upset with me because she thinks I should have insisted on leaving so I could help her. Seeing how upset she was, I tried to hug her, but she wanted me to go away. I genuinely feel awful about her being in so much pain. I'm almost in tears about it myself, but there wasn't much I could have done. I couldn't exactly tell my boss I was leaving whether he liked it or not. I offered her to wait for me to finish, but she refused. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. As a heel wearer, you always have a backup pair of shoes at work. How ridiculous. She's a hotshot lawyer. Shouldn't these problem-solving skills be her jam? I understand she's pregnant and hormonal, etc., but my blood boils after reading this post. She's asking her working husband to get her shoes so she can go home? What happened to being a strong, independent woman? Edited to add, not today, Halopi. I am a woman who has been pregnant and also have been in sticky situation where I had to put on my big girl pants and solve things without my husband's help. I've heard of some people, who probably have money to burn, who Uber or Uber Eats frivolous items like beauty blenders. So, just an expensive hack for anyone who's in a pinch. Not today, Hal. Your wife is an adult. She should have realized by now that she can't wear the heels all the time. I'm not pregnant, and in the before times, I carried a pair of trainers to change into after office hours. I'm not even sure how your wife is planning to handle the day that heels have so damaged her feet and ankles she can't wear them at all. As a retired professional female office worker who had no idea what I'd be doing in the course of a day, what I kept at my office: heels, steel toe boots, tennis shoes, trainers, house shoes, rain boots for rain/mud, flats, casual and dress, extra pantyhose, stockings, and lots of extra socks, also changes of clothing. I agree with above poster. She may be pregnant, but she was a grown woman first and should know to be prepared. Clearest not a day hell of the week. You told her to carry spare shoes. You try to get off of work. She may be hormonal, but that's no excuse to be a nahal.